to make a motion during the public comments time. Mr. President, you are in order to accept that motion. There may have been other people here wanting to speak about that subject, and you've taken that away. I personally think that the committee is a good idea. I think it's too late for this project. It should have been done a year ago. Now you don't have the luxury of the time. I mean, the very people who have been pushing this have been complaining that the delay is going to kill us. So it's up to you, but I think this committee is fine for future projects, but you will probably have to proceed with something on this one before they can meet and make their recommendations. As far as recommendations of members for that board from MC1, I've seen their material. I saw their ad in the Sun Gazette. I saw the paper they handed out at the last meeting. I've seen their Facebook page. They are not impartial on this. They have an agenda. I would suggest you look very carefully at anything that they recommend in the way of members for this committee. The committee was a good idea a year ago. It's probably a good idea now, but it may be useless in this situation. So I would, if I request the board proceed with what they're doing, get the recommendations of the architects that are working on this, and figure out the best way to proceed here to get the best value for this district. By value, I mean the best education at the lowest cost. And I'm trusting you to do that. And I think people in the community should give you a chance, because I know that you're not trying to shortchange these kids. And I know that you're not trying to shortchange the taxpayers. And pushing those two things together is a tall order. And as I said in the last meeting, I'm glad I'm not in your chairs. But hopefully we can come to a decision that kind of at this point has to meet in the middle, because we've already got quite a mess out there. And so I thank you for your service, and good luck.
Just to clarify, the vote was not to have MC1 be the Citizens Advisory Committee. The vote was to form a Citizens Advisory Committee. MC1 will not have the control over the Citizens Advisory Committee. It will be the board. Any more comments?
If we could go back to our very first meeting after you people got sworn in, there was a committee that was arranged, a teacher committee that automatically put Mrs. Jill Kaplan in charge of. So how can we go from deciding that there's going to be an educational type curriculum, whatever her role is in this education oversight committee, how did you decide that she was going to be the head of that when we just decided that we can't have a CAC committee and not one person is in charge of it?
First of all, I'd like to know where you got the idea that academic evaluation team is an oversight committee. It's not
whether
an
or
oversight
not, whatever it is. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is.
No, not whatever it is. It's not an oversight committee. It's a committee to study where we can possibly help teachers and students bring up the grades in the district.
Oh. Well, Mrs. Kaplan is the head of that, and I think 6 of you decided that. And we come back to another committee, and it's going to have board members on it, and no one is assigned the head of the chairperson.
The board hasn't appointed anybody.
That's not what we heard in the first meeting.
No, you heard in the first meeting that Jill Kaplan will be heading up the team.
Isn't that not the same thing?
No, the team hasn't been formed yet.
But she is forming the committee. She is going to be the head of the committee.
That's right.
Now, how did you come to that decision? Who voted on it? Did you just say, eeny, meeny, miny, oh, that one?
No, I believe the vote was 6-3 if you go back and look at the meeting minutes.
And that's what I'm going back to. So you're having this entire, half an hour time deciding about a CAC that does not involve whoever MC1 is, but that Mr. Kaplan, Mr. Kunkel and Mr. Logue are going to work together. But you just appointed Mrs. Kaplan to this teacher advisory committee.
First of all, I did not say that nobody from MC1 would be on that committee. I said that they are not going to run the Citizens Advisory Committee. The board does that.
Then why
The same thing.
Okay, I'm not
thing.
in with MC1. However,
Doesn't matter.
why did
The
Mrs.
same-
Kaplan come out of the air and decide to be this chair for this committee? Or chair, or representative, or founder, or recruiter?
Because she was appointed by the board, and number one, she gives, when she gets done and her team gets done looking at the things to possibly help, she will make recommendations to the board, and the board will decide at that point whether or not they want to go with those recommendations.
Okay, how was Mrs. Kaplan, how did you choose Mrs. Kaplan? Just because you like her, or because her husband's on the board? I mean, where do we come up with Mrs. Kaplan?
I'll answer this last question, and then your time's up.
I didn't hear the buzzer.
Maybe that's because you was talking.
Probably, I do that well.
Mrs. Kaplan was chosen by a 6-3 vote.
Including her husband's vote. Just to get that out here.
She's a volunteer, she's not
A
paid.
volunteer? She was just on this board. No one else would ever pick a former board member to head up a committee.
Hi, my name is Joe Shore. I live at 340 North Washington Street, Montour Valley. While going back to school for my teaching certifications 14 years ago, I substituted often in this building between the years of 2000 and 2005 as a guest teacher. My viewpoints stem from my experiences as an educator, and since last meeting, I've had plenty of time to jot down lots of notes, so I'll be going through to condense them for my abbreviated time. But in addition to my days here as a substitute teacher, I am familiar with this building as a student, as a parent, and although I currently do not have any children or grandchildren in the district, I'm here as a fellow taxpayer with concerns of what was said and not said at public meetings, and points that also need to be considered regarding what should be valued in the new building initiative. Mr. Bassett came to you with a structural analysis of the building. He said some of the bones were in usable shape. What he didn't comment on was the pulse of the building. The life it lives, who it serves, its function now and in the future as a 21st century learning environment, and where it is lacking in those respects. Absent were interviews with students and the teachers within, stepping into the shoes of an educator in our society where safety and security, curriculum innovation, innovation, creativity, and common core standards are everyday concerns. Research into what would it take to make the learning environment a place for full technology integration and a space for flexibility for a future beyond prediction. Understanding of the bond issues, financing windows, and incentive packages, and what grants are available and which ones would be lost. Further, by keeping the building as is and putting much of the needed repairs into the column of routine maintenance changes the scope of the project. What is cast as routine, those necessary repairs would be stacked unfunded expenses for the taxpayers to absorb immediately, possibly without financial benefit of special financing plans or grants. Will we have to start all over with a whole new timeline with this one already 2 years in development? In his presentation, Mr. Bassett noted that the basement was dry and has the best drainage available. Yet in the same meeting, Mr. Hagemeyer, who retired from this maintenance staff from this district, also noted that the pavement is wet, that the basement, when wet, pallets are put down to protect what is stored. Opposite views, one from a snapshot in time and the other from experience over time. Mr. Bassett also noted that he found all science classrooms and labs needed to be moved, enlarged, and updated for the disciplines to be relevant and safe. Isn't it curious that each of these classrooms that he recommended that needed moved to a complete new structure are currently in the original part of the high school, the facade of which so many are nostalgically attached, but is no longer functional for its current occupants or purpose? I hear the buzzer. So I will move on to, if I may, have extended time to move on to my conclusion.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, what I will do then is I will email the balance of my comments to you folks. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Pamela Nelson, 225 Bennett Street. I just have a quick question, and I think maybe to try to clarify what some of us aren't understanding, and Carolyn maybe was trying to clarify. I think the Community Advisory Committee that you've agreed to form is a great idea. I think some of the confusion is that the committee that Mrs. Kaplan was, whatever the term you want to use, appointed to or is going to be forming, also seems to be similar to a community action committee, which is fine. I understand that. But the policy, I thought you said that all of the members on the community action committee have to be chosen and approved by, or have to be approved by the board, not one person on the committee appointing everybody. And I think that's where the confusion is for some of the people watching. I don't have a problem with the Community Action Committee, but how is her committee different than the Building Community Action Committee? And why is the policy not the same for that? So if you can maybe explain that to us. I'm not going to ask for personal conversation, but just if that could be clarified, how that committee of hers does not fall under that policy 905, or I think if I have the right number, as far as how the members are picked, and also have a guidelines for it as far as what the purpose of that committee is and its boundaries and whatnot. It seems like they are both two different community action committees, which could be very valuable to the community, but would still fall under the same policies and guidelines. Thank you.
I'll answer that. The team that Mrs. Kaplan's putting together, she is asking for volunteers from teachers and other people from education, in the education field. Ultimately, the board will be approving the volunteers that she gets. So basically, it is the same thing, because the board has to approve who she picks or who volunteers for her to be on her team. Any other public comments?
Mr. Snell and members of the board, I'm just here only to cheerlead because I'm really so thankful for the sacrifice and the service. Every hour you've spent, every word you've read and studied to be able to do what you're doing is a gift to our community. And I think a lot of us would have felt a couple, maybe days ago, like government in our school system was broken because there was just so many heated issues, making things difficult to move in any positive direction at all. And I really applaud, I guess it was Mike Crafts, I don't know who came up with this plan that brought such strong parties together with such a common desire. Let's just get the smartest brains, people we want to hear from, yet maintain the government and authority to make the decisions we believe in. I just feel like, wow, government really works in this place, and I'm really excited about it. I haven't heard of the plan before tonight, and seeing everyone come together in such a level-headed and loving way, I'm just thrilled. I feel like my community, Montoursville, is a community I'm so thankful to be a part of, and thankful for all of you and what you're doing here. Your level heads, your love for the kids and the people, and knowing what's important. So thank you. Just had to cheerlead.
Could you state your name and address, please?
I'm Angela Scones on Yangle Road, Montoursville. Thank you.